We are live.
You're kicking it, Boitumelo?
I think we can start, Dr. Q. Good evening, welcome everyone. I think let's start, and everybody else who's signed up for the webinar will find us as the ball is rolling. On behalf of the Salome team and Dr. Q, who I will introduce in a minute, welcome to the first ASEAN Expert webinar. Tonight's webinar is focusing on fertility, and it has been brought to you by the Salome range of products. I am Boitumelo Sebambo, and my co-host tonight is Dr. Q. I've chosen to leave it at Q because she says my click is soft.
You can give it a try. Impress South Africa.
I will not shame both of us, Dr. Q. I will leave it as Dr. Q. So before we start, let me introduce Dr. Q. Dr. Q is our expert at Qinisile Diale. She is a gynecologist, obstetrician, and fertility specialist. She believes that women's health chose her and not the other way around. Dr. Q, would you like to introduce yourself before we start?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Boitumelo, and thank you to Salome for allowing this opportunity and chance for women to get a free consultation with a fertility expert. So as mentioned, I'm commonly known as Dr. Q. My full names are Qinisile Diale. It's a nice South African click to a Zulu name. And yeah, I am an obstetrician and gynecologist. I practice at Netcare Unitas Hospital in Pretoria, Centurion. And I am the founder and CEO of Family Matters Fertility Center, where our motto is making babies is our art. So we help people achieve their dreams and start their dream families. And that's our passion, our everyday life. That's me in a nutshell. Personally, I'm a mother of 4. Yeah, and it's hard work, guys. You know, sometimes you need to rethink certain things. But hey, once we get you pregnant, there's no turning back. There's no return policy. So yes, let's get them families started.
Thanks, Dr. Q. I never actually saw gynecologists and obstetricians as artists. So I'm glad you've added just another description to that. But for everybody, I think let me explain how we're going to run today's webinar. We've received a set of questions, actually a lot of questions from everybody, from those who attended the fertility show last week, and also from our loyal customers and followers. We will go through some of those. And I think for people whose questions either don't get attended to or who need further clarity, we'll post a Q&A on our website, which is www.salome_range.co.za. And we'll post that in a week, and people can get on there to just get those questions. But I will start with, excuse me, our first question that we received. And I think this is the one really focusing on the art. It says, I'm struggling to fall pregnant. What are the options available for me to check if I am infertile?
Okay, so you know, infertility is something that is diagnosed at home, but the testing thereof, unfortunately, it's something that you unfortunately can't do at home. The only thing you can maybe do on your own is to check if you're ovulating, and that will be a simple thing like, okay, they are, checking your temperatures, keeping a record of your periods, and checking your vaginal discharge when it becomes long and slimy and white and thick and elongating like that, if you put it on your fingers. But those things, I won't say that they really outdated, but some people also find it gross, like checking your vaginal discharge with your fingers and checking, you know, its length and all of that. But a simple thing that you can do is to check if you're ovulating, confirm your ovulation by buying ovulation kit over the counter, and then you start testing your urine every morning. It's more like a pregnancy test, and then you can at least check if you're ovulating or not. But when you then consult with us, we do check if you still have eggs. So that involves a blood test that is done, that is called anti-Mullerian hormone, AMH, where we check your ovarian reserve. I always say ovarian reserve is like you wanting to do a trip from Pretoria to Durban, and you want to know if you have enough petrol. That's basically what she's asking. Do I have enough petrol to get to Durban? Can I fall pregnant? You know, and so that test, that is what it does. It's more like your petrol gauge, and it tells you full tank, half tank, quarter tank, empty. So you just do that test and you have an idea whether your ovarian reserve is there or diminished or depleted. Oh, and again, we also are able to do a vaginal sauna where we look at your ovaries and are able to count the resting eggs that are visible, at least for that month, because it gives us an idea of your fertility. Then we can tell you, look, so many eggs are visible. It means you're still recruiting eggs. There's still a pool of eggs. And another way of checking is to also, which is also important, all these things are important. You can't fall pregnant without the other. As much as you can't carry a pregnancy without a womb, and you can't have a biological baby without eggs. So we need to check those things. And you can't fall pregnant naturally if your fallopian tubes are not functional or they're blocked or anything like that. So we also need to do a test to test for fallopian tubes, and that is usually called a hysterosalpingogram. In short, it's HSG. It's a test that costs plus minus 3,000 Rand, depending where you do it. Some medical aids are able to pay for it, some not, but mostly it's a cash process. Same day procedure. They test your fallopian tubes, and then we know whether natural pregnancy is an option for you or not. That's in a nutshell for a lady. But for a guy, and ladies always go through major things without checking their partners, because they always take this self-blame that, you know, infertility means there's a problem with me because I need to carry the baby. But if nobody is dropping a seed inside you, semen does not mean seed. So a man has to do a sperm test as well to make sure that in that semen, in that ejaculate, there is sperm, because that semen can be empty or devoid of sperm as well. In a nutshell, I hope it answers the question.
Thanks, Dr. Q. I think there are a couple of things that I wanted to say to everybody who's viewing, but they are posting questions. As if there's a need for clarity, people can pose questions. But thank you for bringing into this discussion the fact that in relationships that have a man and a woman, the test, requires both the woman and the man to go test, because I think women carry a lot of shame around our reproductive health, and we carry a lot of shame around fertility. So I think thank you for that. Then the second part, I think, is you use the example of, can the petrol tank take you to Durban? And I think one of the things is really, if I'm not at 100% full tank, but I'm at half tank, and I drive carefully, is there a possibility that I'll get to Durban?
Yes, there is a possibility that you can get to Durban, and it also depends on the route that you take. Hey, so there's different methods that one can use. So there is a cutoff, though, where a full tank is regarded as a value of 1.2 and above. Obviously, then half tank will be 0.6, which can actually get you to achieve your goal. And then we have a cutoff of 0.17. So if the ovarian reserve is less than 0.17, then we say, look, there's actually minimal chances that one can successfully fall pregnant, even when we attempt through IVF. So anything between 0.3 to and above we can attempt in vitro fertilization if the ovarian reserve is low. And it's just that if you try to fall pregnant on your own, it may take quite long. And as the time goes, we know that the quality and the quantity of the eggs diminishes. So time can also be of essence, is actually
Okay.
of.
A couple of the ladies that were at the show, Dr. Q, were over 40. So we received a lot of questions where women are saying, I am either almost 40 or I am over 40. What are the chances of falling pregnant? And I'm assuming your previous response might respond to that.
Yes. As known, but you'll be surprised, actually, I'm saying as known, a lot of women think they can be fertile forever. Hey, and I must say this, people must not take offense, but I find this a lot in educated women with degrees and honors and all of this. You know, they chill. Hey, we think we've got it all together, and then it comes with regret at times, where people will be like, had somebody told me that I had an option to freeze my eggs, I would have done it, you know, because yes, we are trying hard and working hard to climb this corporate ladder and be successful women. But then you find that, unfortunately for some, when by the time they reach the age of 40, and 40 sometimes is even an overkill, others at the age of 37, others at 35, you find that they've unfortunately ran out of eggs. So a woman will not know where she falls under. And we can't look at our parents and think, my mom had my brother, or my mom had my younger sister at the age of 43, so can I. You know, unfortunately, we can, the what do they say? The taste is in the pudding, something like that. So we have to really get you tested to know if you are one of the 40-year-olds that can fall pregnant at 40, 41. And there is no complete write-off of everybody that's above 40. There are some people who are really fortunate, but the majority of them, more than 60% of women that are 40, you find that they unfortunately cannot fall pregnant anymore. They've run out of eggs, or good quality eggs, because, you know, after the age of 40, there's more than a 40% risk of miscarriages. There's risk of abnormalities with the baby, abnormal DNA or chromosomal abnormalities like Down syndrome, trisomy 22, and all these other things. So all these risks, they increase after the age of 37. So it's good if you are 40 and you are still considering falling pregnant. I always tell my women who say, who are 40 or even above 37, and they're like, I'm not sure. I'm like, the best time is now, if ever you are considering. So get yourself checked, and let's see what we come out with, and then we can take it from there. Okay.
I think the next, you know, there are a couple of questions that we've received where women have either had a miscarriage or an abortion. So I'll start with the ones around abortions. We were asked by some women to say, I had abortion earlier on in life. What are the chances of me falling pregnant again? Or I've tried to fall pregnant since having the abortion and I'm struggling. Any advice on there, Dr. Q?
Yes, you know, mainly it depends on how was the termination of pregnancy done. Some women have backstreet abortion in their young age. Some women even go to hospitals, and then you find that they are cleaned surgically, or the pregnancy is removed surgically, and then an overzealous doctor can be trying to remove the pregnancy product and end up unfortunately destroying the lining of the womb, you know, and that can lead to a syndrome that we call Asherman syndrome, where they have adhesions, where instead of the cavity being open like this, because they've scraped this side and they've scraped this side, it ends up connecting to each other and almost closing the cavity of the womb. So then a pregnancy cannot sit, you know, so then you find that we have to go in and remove all the remnants and the scar tissue. So a scar tissue forms during the evacuation or the vacuuming or the cleaning of the womb, the process, the surgical process itself. That's the one time where an abortion or termination of pregnancy or a miscarriage can cause problems with infertility. The second time or possibility that it can be linked with infertility is if it is what we call a septic miscarriage, where maybe a woman miscarries and does not get medical attention, then she develops infections, and then that can lead to the womb being affected and the fallopian tubes also being destroyed by the infection that she gets during the time of either cleaning the womb or actually performing this termination itself. So if there's been infections or if there's been this overzealous surgical removal of the products of conception, then that can lead to infertility. But a simple miscarriage where just medication was used and the woman aborted, or it was a complete miscarriage, it should not be affecting your fertility further.
Okay. On the first one, you spoke about scar tissue. Is this something that can be removed or dealt with, or is it a permanent issue?
It depends how severe it is. There are different grades of the scarring of the womb, but most times you find that we do a procedure that is called a hysteroscopy, and we are able to remove the scar tissue and put in medication that helps with the healing of the womb, and getting a woman on hormones as well that helps the regeneration of the lining of the womb. But if the cavity is severely destroyed, then unfortunately that will be the time where the womb cannot even hold a pregnancy. So there's various grades, and these we can only diagnose once we are in theater and we are looking inside the womb and looking and assessing the cavity itself.
Okay. There's somebody here who actually says they've had a hysteroscopy and a, these medical terms, laparoscopy. She says she's had it 4 years ago. She has PCOS and changed her diet. And for the last 5 months, the insulin has dropped. And I think the question is, what's the next option? My assumption is it has to also do with fertility. It was fertility affected by PCOS.
Okay. So what's important again is to go back to basics and check if she is ovulating or not. So with patients with PCOS, they are first started on supplements to actually reduce the insulin levels, as she says, which is what actually reduces the quality of the eggs and the also affects ovulation, which is the release of the egg that allows for fertilization in the baby to be conceived. So if we don't have ovulation, which is a common factor in PCOS patients, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So if we don't have ovulation, we don't have an egg, therefore we don't have a baby. So the first thing is to establish ovulation. And we can do this by what we call ovulation induction, where we give them medication and they take the medication and come back after a few days, and we check if her body is actually responding to the medication and growing at least an egg, if not eggs. And then once we find a leading egg, we do blood tests to check for ovulation or confirm ovulation. And then she can either have timed intercourse at home, meaning natural intercourse and just during the time of ovulation, or we do what we call artificial insemination, where during the time of ovulation, once we've confirmed through a sonar or blood test, then we are able to do artificial insemination, where her partner gives us a sperm. If it's single woman, they get a donor sperm and we insert it through the mouth of the womb, and then assist with the conception. So if she's been trying for a while, I think it's time we take it to the next step, because some ovaries with PCOS, they actually don't even respond to minimal drugs. So you can even put them on high dose Clomid, Letrozole. You find that they hardly respond. It's either they have excessive response or others don't respond at all. So then IVF will become the last option. So we start small and go slow.
Okay. I think, Doc, now that we are on the topic of ovaries, not that we've left, somebody says, I am 36 years old. I was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure after experiencing hot flushes. I'm currently on, I think it's pronounced trisequins. What other methods besides IVF are there for me to get pregnant? So that's the one ovary question. The other one is really around falling pregnant if I've got ovarian cysts.
Okay, starting with primary ovarian insufficiency. That's what you said, or it's me saying
premature
that?
Ovarian failure.
Yeah, okay, that's the old terminology. So it basically means going.
What's the new terminology, Doc? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, it's primary ovarian insufficiency, POI. Or POF, which is what she said is premature ovarian failure. And basically, in simple terms for other listeners, it basically means that a woman goes into menopause before the age of 40, meaning she stops ovulating, loses the number of eggs before she reaches the age of 40. So, excuse me, guys. Go to sleep. Okay. Can you hear that?
We can hear that.
Oh my word.
But it's fine. It is bedtime. It is bedtime. You're probably missing reading a book. It is bedtime. We all understand.
I did make a disclaimer, guys, at the beginning. Good night, baby. Good night. Bye. I love you. I'm glad. Bye-bye. Apologies. They are packing because we are having a trip tomorrow, so they're all excited. Now she came to get her toothbrush for traveling. So yeah. Apologies. Premature ovarian failure or primary ovarian insufficiency is when a woman goes into menopause before the age of 40, meaning she runs out of eggs. So basically, what are the options of falling pregnant? I must let people know that only about an estimate of about 2.5% of women with POI can actually miraculously, randomly fall pregnant, unexpectedly. So, but that's very minimal. So others may fall within the 97.5% that unfortunately may not fall pregnant. So we're basically saying the majority, more than 90% of women that have been diagnosed with POI can unfortunately not fall pregnant with their own eggs because the egg pool has been depleted. That's the unfortunate part. So meaning they may not be able to get biological kids, meaning it's like, I always make an example to my patients that it's like you want to have a peach garden and you've got your field, you've got your space, and it's prepared, you've got the soil, you've removed the rocks and everything. That's your womb. And then now you need to put in the seed. But unfortunately, you've run out of seeds. You don't have the seeds. That's when we go to the neighbor and we borrow. So that will be egg donation as an option. for falling pregnant. And when a person gives you seeds, they give to you, you plant into your garden, the fruit that comes out of there is yours. It's your own. You are the owner. You use your womb to grow a baby, legally and otherwise, that's your baby. Genetically, though, it will be the donor's link, you know. So it just basically means the genealogy will be different, but they do have the womb, they do have the field to actually cultivate a baby. So about 97% of women with primary ovarian insufficiency will unfortunately need to consider egg donation as a means of falling pregnant. I hope it answers the question.
It does. Dr. Q, it does. It's also, I don't know what the feeling I'm having is, but there is a feeling I'm having.
It's sad.
It is. I think the person that has posted must come in and have a chat with you around the options are available to her, or to her and her partner, if that's what's there.
Yeah. No, that's the unfortunate part, you know. And the most difficult part is getting women to understand and to accept the diagnosis. And but what I've seen, which is very beautiful, is the women who do and decide to act upon it. Oh man, I've seen wonderful results. Hey, just this year, February, was it February? Yeah, February, March. I diagnosed last year, June, met this girl for the first time. She's 38. I think, let me share these stories so that we can address the people who've had an opportunity to get their questions answered, and hopefully it can bring about some hope. As much as I would like to rush through the questions, but the very few that I can get to, if maybe we can bring about some hope and options and some light and some experience as well. Got a 38-year-old last year, came in checking her fertility, single lady, and she thought she could at least get artificial insemination with somebody's sperm. And unfortunately, when we did all the investigations, she was actually having premature ovarian failure. And we then discussed that she could either use her sister's eggs, that was her options, her sister's eggs, or an unknown donor's egg. And I sent her all the quotations and the explanations with one visit. And obviously she was broken. And I understand. We sit, we counsel, we reassure, we go through the options. And I promise you, in less than a month, she came back. She didn't even tell me what her decision was. I saw by the amount that she paid that this is what, I just saw money. You know, she just made a deposit. And I'm like, oh, okay, this amount is for an unknown donor. So it means she has decided to go for an unknown donor. Quickly got her donor, sent her information about the donor. She accepted. We got her the following month. She was going ahead. We're synchronizing her with her donor, so that their cycles are in sync, simultaneous. We prepared her womb. We got the eggs from the donor. She brought a friend to donate sperm. The guy came. We did all that consent and everything. Like, guys, you know, one shot, put in the babies. She fell pregnant. Went through the pregnancy, came with her mom, came the next visit, she's with her sister, the next visit, she's with her cousin, the next visit, you know, and none of them know that this is an egg donor cycle, and they don't have to know. It's just between me and herself and my embryologist, you know, and went through a beautiful pregnancy, delivered this year. When she came for her 6 weeks follow-up, she was a totally different person, you know, and I'm like, is this you? Like, beautiful, glowing. You know, usually women after giving birth, they'll be depressed. You know, there is postpartum depression and all those things. But with her, it came with a glow. It came with a different step. It came, and it's like, you know, somebody who has this shame removed from her, a new light, a new reason to live, a new purpose. Like, she was glowing. And she said it herself that, Dr. Q, I even feel younger. You know, funny enough, instead of having a baby making me feel old and what, I feel younger, I feel alive. You know, even the sense probably of knowing that her body is actually capable. You know, she saw herself going through the pregnancy and all of that. She went through the birth. Maybe it also validated her in some point. It gave me a whole lot of perspective, like, wow, you know, these are some of the unspoken effects of infertility on our women, you know, where I take it that, you know, they feel, people will feel inadequate, people will feel written off, all the stigmas that are there. But then if we can find ways of making something happen, I even tell people that, you know, because then they'll be like, I might as well adopt. And I still say, but it's different. It's different than adoption. But that will be a topic for another day.
That will definitely be a topic for another day. I think we need to hear more of these stories. They're encouraging and they're happy. And thank you for sharing that, and Dr. Q. And I think also to the women and couples that are posting questions, either right now during the webinar or earlier in this month, late last month. Thank you again, because I think it is quite difficult to come out to talk about. And, you know, there are also just cultural nuances that we sometimes forget attached to infertility. So thank you very much for sharing that story. It's at least uplifted my mood.
Yeah, I could tell you get it. You're going down.
Oh man.
I just had to. I was doing it for you, girl.
Thank you. One of the other questions that we're receiving a lot of is really around irregular periods, and also just around endometriosis. So you know, so some women are saying, I have irregular periods. Does this mean I can't fall pregnant? Others are saying, I haven't had my period in a while. Does it mean I won't fall pregnant? And essentially, how does endometriosis affect fertility? So maybe let's start with you know, a regular versus irregular cycle and what that means for pregnancy.
Okay. So, you know, women, and they're not wrong in doing this, you know, periods are associated with the possibility of a pregnancy. And then when periods are there, people take it, hey, I'm still getting my period, I can still fall pregnant. Unfortunately, also that's a misnomer, because there could be other problems that you're having. You could be having your period, but you find that the fallopian tubes are blocked, or you've got huge fibroids that are obstructing. You know, there could be many other problems except your periods. So that's one thing that women also should not take for granted, that I'm seeing my periods, therefore I can still fall pregnant. And when they get their periods and their periods are irregular, I want to take this opportunity also to clear out this misunderstanding of irregular periods. You know, women think that if they see their periods at the beginning of the month and at the end of the month, they are irregular. You know, then they'll be like, I see my periods twice a month. I'm like, okay, girls, a month has got 30 to 31 days. And your period could be 26 days, a 26-day cycle, meaning on the 26th day, then on the 27th day, you'll be seeing your period again, meaning you've got a 26-day cycle. So if you menstruate on the 1st of the month and you menstruate for 3 days and you have a 26-day cycle, so you will menstruate and your cycle is, the first day of your cycle is the first day that you see your period. So that's day 1. And then day 2, day 3, the blood is gone, 4, 5, 6. When you get to 26, meaning on the 27th of that month, again, you will menstruate if your cycle is 26 days. So we don't have to say our periods are irregular because we see them twice a month. It is normal. That's the first thing to say. It can be normal to see your periods twice a month. And if they are irregular, then it means you will see your periods on the first of the month, and then maybe you will see it again after 2 weeks. You know, a normal cycle, I'll just use this opportunity to teach others as well, so that others can gauge where they stand. A normal cycle is anything between 21 days to 35 days. So if your period, if you count the first day that you menstruate, and then you see your periods after 3 weeks, it's still normal, 21 days. It means you have a short normal period, a short normal cycle. And if you see your period after 25 days in the following month, it won't be. So women have this understanding that if I saw my periods on the 25th of this month, next month I'll see my periods on the 25th again. And unless you have a 30-day cycle, and there's only 30 days in all the months of the year, which, yeah. So let's just make sense of that. So if the period is irregular, then it does not mean you cannot fall pregnant. You can still fall pregnant, but you just need to know, when are you ovulating? When are you releasing that seed that needs to be fertilized? And when should you time your intercourse for? So the usual timing for most women, I usually say, look, around day 10, start testing your urine, because even if your cycle is short, very few women will be ovulating around day 8, 9, you know, unless their cycle is extremely short. But majority of women from day 10, between day 10 and 16, they will be ovulating. So yes, if your period is irregular, you may not know when to time. So that's when it's best to at least use a urine ovulation test to check when are you exactly ovulating, and time your intercourse during that time. And you've got the egg lasting for only 24 hours, waiting for fertilization for only 24 hours. 24 hours. So you need to know when that 24 hours is. Okay. And then the sperm will last for plus minus 5 days. These are tips, ladies. Hint, hint, hunch, hunch. So you can deposit sperm at least 4 days before your ovulation and during the time of ovulation, and at least the day after, because once the egg is out, you've got that 24-hour period. So it's mostly about timing and knowing when ovulation is. Ovulation, ovulation, ovulation.
Thanks, Doc. I think everybody's got their diaries out now, and there are menstrual cycle apps to kind of start monitoring this and understanding the 24 hours and the 5 days. I think those are the key numbers, you know?
Yeah.
28 days,
timing.
You know, if ever anyone's going to also play the lottery, there's a 28 there, there's a 24, and there's a 5 in there.
We've got numbers.
We've got some
menstrual numbers.
Some menstrual numbers to play with. Let me just go through some of the questions, and then I'll let you know what we've got. There was
something about cysts.
Yes, I don't think we responded to that. Somebody had asked if they have ovarian cysts, are they able to fall pregnant?
Okay, so ovarian cysts, you know, are also another misnomer, especially in terms of PCOS, because women, when they say they've got polycystic ovarian syndrome, they say, I've got cysts in my ovaries, you know, and it's not really cysts. It's just multiple follicles that are not growing, you know, but it is called polycystic ovarian syndrome. I think it should be called polyfollicular ovarian syndrome. In better terms, so that we don't misuse the name cyst. The cyst is a fluid collection in the ovary, and it has to be at least above 25 millimeters for us to call it a cyst. So with PCOS, they're usually smaller and all of that. So with if it's cysts related to PCOS, then the previous answer is applicable for a PCOS related cyst. But if it's a cyst, which is an abnormal fluid collection in the ovary, it depends also how big it is. Cysts are usually, because women will be like, what causes cysts? When do I get cysts? You know, they're mostly hormonal. It's like having a pimple. I usually use a pimple. A pimple can come up and it not cause any problems. Within a week, it's gone. The cysts are also like that. As you go through your periods, they can resolve on their own. But if a cyst is persistent, if a cyst is a big in size, usually we use plus minus 8 centimeters, because then it has a high risk of causing torsion or damage to the ovary, then that one needs to be treated. There is medical treatment of cysts where we give you hormones, and then there is surgical treatment of cysts where we take you to theater and actually drain or remove that cyst. There is also cysts that are related to endometriosis, which we call endometrioma, where there's blood collection in the ovary. And then those ones as well, there can be medical treatment, and there's also surgical treatment. So it depends on the size, and not all women with ovarian cyst cannot fall pregnant. So it's mostly maybe in endometriosis where it causes that inflamed environment that it's difficult for fertilization to take place, or it causes physical damage in the environment, like the tubes, etc., where pregnancy is a problem. I hope it answers. So there's different causes of cysts. We need to establish what is this cyst related to, and then how can we treat it medically or surgery.
Okay. So I think there's another one leading from the ovarian cysts, and it's somebody who says they've had them surgically removed, but since then her periods are heavy flowed and they last longer. So now she has a 14-day period. She doesn't say how long her previous period were, but she's just asking, is it normal post laparoscopic surgery to have heavy flow?
No, it's not normal after laparoscopic surgery to have a heavy flow. Again, it depends what was being done in the laparoscopy. And if you have a heavy flow, we need to assess what are the causes of the heavy flow. You may find that you've got other problems. It's mostly in the womb, where there is conditions like adenomyosis, which causes heavy periods and painful periods. Also things like endometriosis, heavy periods, painful periods, things like fibroids or myoma, painful periods, heavy periods, prolonged periods, painful sexual intercourse. Those are all the things that are associated with the different pathologies. So it's not something that is caused by the surgical intervention, but it's something that is usually caused by a certain pathology that needs to be diagnosed and treated appropriately. And if a woman is having all these things and they still have a need for fertility, or they want to fall pregnant, I would really, really recommend that women consider going straight to a fertility specialist. You know, you don't necessarily need to have a referral or whatever. Just see a fertility specialist, someone who will treat you with the intention of helping you to fall pregnant, and being more careful, because even in the way that endometriosis is treated by a general gynae and a fertility specialist, it's different. That fibroids are treated, and all of that. So it's quite different. There's different conditions. And when we know that you still have a fertility wish, the approach is also very conservative. And then we can take you all the way through.
Okay. Doc, is there an impact, or should I say, do previous sterilizations, UIDs, loops, and taking contraceptives for the years, do those affect how quickly one, or if one can fall pregnant?
Okay, so we've mentioned different types of contraceptives there. A loop is part of what we call a long-acting reversible contraceptive, meaning it is reversible. You When you use it, you achieve the purpose of not falling pregnant, but when you want to fall pregnant, you can reverse the process. And if it's a loop with a hormone, it takes plus minus 3 months for it to wear out of your system. So if you know you want to try for a pregnancy in March, then you remove the loop in December. Then you give yourself time. Some women will remove the loop in December. A Mirena, for example, which has a progesterone, will remove the loop in December. Already in January, they're pregnant. Others, it takes a while and their periods need to return and all of that. So yes, you can still fall pregnant if you are using a loop, but with sterilization, that is a permanent contraceptive, contraceptive method where we cut the tubes. And again, I would like to emphasize on cut the tubes, because patients have this understanding that we tie the tubes. My tubes were tied, they were not cut, you know. Another lady had a sterilization done in Limpopo, and she kept on telling me they were tied. And then I had to call the laboratory and under her ID get sterilization results that were done like 10 years ago, and to say, your tubes are in the lab, mommy. You see, Limpopo lab.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Look, and I think maybe the term was used colloquially.
Yes.
And people have understood it as such. I mean, I for years also thought it is a knot that can get
untied,
so,
and then you're like,
I can understand why people think that, and probably the admin of a tying a knot seems easier than the admin of a daily contraceptive, without understanding what is surgically happening to one's body.
Exactly. So that's why I'm saying, let me emphasize, so that when when such decisions are made, women are more informed and therefore more empowered. So the tubes are cut. We do tie so that there's no further bleeding. And then above where the ribbon is, above the tie, we cut and we send it to the laboratory. So your options after sterilizing are two. One, we need to go straight for IVF because there's no connection, therefore the egg and the sperm cannot meet. Then we can cause the connection in the laboratory and then put the baby inside the womb. We bypass the tubes. You fall pregnant, you don't have to sterilize again. Then your contraception is still there. And the second option is to reconnect, or what we call re-anastomosis, where we connect the tubes that were cut. What does this entail? It entails you going into theater, being put to sleep, and then we go in and we see, but there are prerequisites to that. For us to say we are re-anastomosing or reconnecting your tubes, we need to make sure that your ovarian reserve is good, because then you will want to fall pregnant naturally, but you don't have eggs anymore. Then it's no point for you going under the knife for something that's most probably not going to happen. So, and then again, we can only diagnose once we are inside in theater whether the tube can be reconnected or not, because we don't know what the other doctor did. The best or the easiest one is if the procedure, laparoscopic sterilization, was done where we used clips. Then the clips still keep the tubes together. We don't cut, we just clip it, but then naturally the tubes part where the clips are, because there's no blood supply. So the tubes part. So what we do when we get into theater is remove the blunt edges and reconnect. So when the clips were used, then it's easier to reconnect. But if the sterilization was done during a C-section, it's actually much difficult, because then the doctor could have removed the whole tube, or the finger part of the tube, which is what draws the egg from the ovary. If that is removed and it's a blind ending tube, then there's no more fingers to actually catch the egg, then natural conception cannot take place. But then for us to do this procedure, it can cost you about 50,000 Rand, and that's more or less the cost of IVF. And medical aids don't pay for it to reverse the fallopian tubes. So that's why majority of people, once they've sterilized, the better option is just to go straight for IVF. I hope it answers the question.
I think it does. And it also just, you know, the one thing that the team at Salome likes doing is the thing around misconceptions. And I think this is one of those where there is a misconception around what tying one's tube actually is. So thanks for clearing that out, Doc. Let me see what else we've got to cover. There was a very important question that I thought we should talk about, particularly in the context of South Africa. Somebody posted and said they've had an STI. Would that impact their ability to fall pregnant?
Yes, that's also a very important question, and it's actually good that the individual is aware that they've had an STI, because most women don't even know. They're not even aware. And only when we take them to theater, we see all the signs of chlamydia and gonorrhea and things that are happening inside their wombs, fallopian tubes and the whole pelvis, and its effects that they were not even aware about or aware of. So yes, unfortunately, a sexually transmitted infection or disease can cause destruction of the pelvic organs. And it usually goes up through the vagina into the womb and all the way up to the fallopian tubes, where it can cause adhesions or fibrotic tissue or scar tissue that actually blocks the fallopian tube. And then that will lead to difficulty in conception. So it depends on what was the STI and what extent did it go to, and how much damage was done. So a person who's had a previous STI and was treated, I think the main thing for them is to consider just testing their fallopian tubes. And if their fallopian tubes are open, not blocked, patent, then there are chances that they can still fall pregnant naturally. Then they can just check on their ovaries, and they should be good to go.
Okay, thank you, Doc. I'm going to just check any other questions on our Q&A on the live. I think we've covered a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered a lot of them, Doc. The one question which perhaps we should have started with, but we didn't have as many people on the live as we do now, which is one we enjoy covering with the team, is really the real definition of fertility. And I think you spoke about it in a bit, but not really by definition, which is sometimes you find people who try and fall pregnant for 3 years and come after 3 years. Sometimes people try for a month and then come in a panic. Maybe let's in closing this get to that, so that at least people know, depending on their age or conditions, what is the medical definition of fertility or infertility.
Okay, so yes, that's a very critical question, because some people diagnose themselves with infertility, whereas they don't even yet qualify, and others that actually do qualify take quite long to actually come for a checkup. So we say there is a problem of infertility if a couple has been trying to conceive for a period of 12 months or more, if they are below the age of 35, or for a period of 6 months or more, if you've been trying to conceive and you are above 35. So, and then by trying to conceive for this period, you must make sure that you are off all forms of contraception, including a condom, because some people don't count a condom as contraception. So you must be off all forms of contraception during that period, and having adequate sexual intercourse. Now, what is adequate sexual intercourse? It means having sex 3 times a day, guys. I'm kidding. The men will be so happy, like, woo, woo, did you hear that? Did you hear that, baby?
Whichever household you're on speaker on is there's a side eye.
there's like, did you get that? So yes, adequate sexual intercourse means at least having sexual intercourse every alternate days. Guys, ngicela singanxishani riskati mana. Then the baby will come, So 3 times a week of sexual intercourse at minimum, or every alternate day. And especially then knowing whether during the time of ovulation, are you having sexual intercourse? Because some people are on long distance relationships and they are trying to have a baby. And unfortunately, you may not, if you are meeting each other on weekends only, you may miss that ovulation period on a Wednesday. So it's very important also to know and to have intercourse during these times of ovulation. So that is infertility. So guys, if you've been trying for more than a year, please quickly come for a checkup. And there are some young couples who say, we are getting married soon, or we are in the process of whatever, or we've been trying for 6 months, but we don't want to wait another 6 months to only find out there was a problem. So we want to check now. You're welcome, as long as you can afford it, guys. Some people come through before the time, and we are able to intervene in the meantime without saying, look, let's wait the whole 12 months before you qualify and meet the criteria of infertility. Then you find that, look, they could already be taking supplements if they are men and improving their sperm counts and all of that, treating PCOS for women, all those options where you find that they were not even aware that they're having problems. So rather come in earlier than later, because the biological clock is real, ladies, unfortunately. So something needs to be done. And if you're not ready for conception as yet, there is options of freezing your eggs. Please start saving money. You are not buying nappies, you are not buying Nan. Take that money, put it aside, and get your fertility insurance, bank your eggs, and then at least there'll be some form of backup. If your knight in shining armor comes at the age of 38, at least you've got backup. I hope that answers.
It does, Doc, and I love that you've called it a fertility insurance. If we've got anybody from the medical aids, then excuse me, then there's something to look at, because I think sometimes that the challenge is that these are viewed as nice to haves
exactly.
by medical aids. Doc, I think we are at the end of our Q&A. I would like to thank you for bringing, I think, fun into sometimes what is a very, very scary topic. And for me, I think the takeaway is one, that we must each know and understand our own bodies. 2, we must each have a great relationship with our own gynecologists, GPs, or something similar. To those who are under 35 and don't have children, go get that fertility insurance. And those who are over 35 and don't have children and want them, I think Doc says run.
Yeah.
Run and get that work done. What we will do is any other questions that have come through now or in the past week and were not answered, we will get our team of experts to answer them, and we will put them on our website, which is www.salome_range.co.za. Any last words from you, Doc?
Yes, thanks team for organizing this. I hope it was insightful chat with the couples or ladies or men even that have joined in. And yeah, so please take that first step. It is a daunting experience for a lot of people, but it is worth giving a go. And always the earlier, the better. The earlier we know what the problem is, the earlier we can treat, then the better the chances of good outcomes. So let's do it. Let's get our checkups and let's start making babies.
Thanks, Doc, and thanks to our technical team in the background and to the Salome team who are also in the background. It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks again for creating the safe space with Team Salome.
Pleasure.
Good night and cheers to everybody.
Good night, everybody.